Ulilisti Atsenata. Happy new moon. Happy solar eclipse. And welcome to the Dragon Sound Bowl. It's such a beautiful tritone. But I know the microphone's kind of loose sound on it, so I wonder what it had sounded like in that moment. And if you got to hear and feel it in such a way that it passes through the ether, and hopefully awakens your dragon or uh, strokes it in such a way that it is not so domineering over the self. Um, Happy new moon, happy solar eclipse. The solar eclipse was yet again not for us, but more visible on the southern hemisphere, um, which has been incredible to see in the world. How many other countries and other nations are fed up and rising and changing. Um, it's been a heck of a time and a heck of a week. Um, and the solar eclipse, as far as northern hemisphere, as far as central time, just passed. So I hope you got to, even though we couldn't see it, it was in the sky. It's done its thing. Now it will influence the moon, and the moon will be for all of us. So get tight, get right before that moon throws you for a loop, my friend. The new moon also in the last degrees of Virgo. It very much looks like a cusp situation. But it looks like it's also very like very last nug. Very much last seam. Um, but Virgo has so many other influences too, especially the more you overlay it with other modes of indigenous astrology or indigenous timekeeping. Um, there's so much to say about its willingness for freedom and the as much as we assume it's an earth sign or associated with air or what have you because of knowledge and wisdom and thinking and organizing and grounding. I think Virgo very much has a lot of fire to it and a lot of inspiration and a lot of will and a lot of devotion behind its power, and that's something that perhaps we've lost with Western astrology's take on it. But worry not. Uh, for many of us, for some of us, are unearthing the truth. Um, but last degrees of Virgo, so either very mature and sturdy, or very stubborn and very much like hoarding. I will go down with my ship, or conversely, very willful, very powerful. Very ready for freedom and very discontent with constriction, like claustrophobia, I suppose. So if you've been feeling particularly anxious or rigid with the world, that is part of the signs of Virgo season. Hello. Thank you for being here. Happy new moon. Um, Virgo, and with Venus particularly accentuates this willpower, this willfire, this purpose, this passion. Conversely, is also ample grounds to utilize that fire to manipulate purpose and passion for propaganda. Um, this is a fabricated passion. This is when, the way military gets you to fight. This is the way government gets you to vote. This is the way, even though investments, let's be honest, are really where it matters, which is why they're rehashing the way investments work, and creating, smaller versions of BlackRock so that even the little guy can invest in real estate. Um, Take with that information what you want. I definitely think that voting is a farce, and that putting your money where your mouth is much more where it matters, which is also why there's a whole bunch of new companies that will uh, copy rich people's investments and be able to make you do the same thing. Little do we know that we are investing in the very system that we are fighting when we do it that way. So be keen on where it is that you put your attention, let alone your influence. Um, and that is absolutely not just what we focus on, but what we invest our attention into. Unfortunately, more often than not, we're investing our attention outside of us or into something beyond us. That's not to say, don't treat yourself. That is to say, do not become your treat. Um, because it's also so close to the gosh, now I'm playing with something. Because it's also so close to the end of Virgo, there's also, and because it's with Venus, it's very much accentuating Libra influences. Because Libra, I mean, Venus is very recognizing of Libra, even though it's outside of itself. It's almost like when you're at a party and you're like, oh, my friend's on their way. They'll be here any minute, kind of thing, is where Venus is at. And so Libra is with Mars and Mercury, which is very much associated with this in the fabrication of an enemy, because we're dealing with temperament, we're dealing with movement, we're dealing with communication, we're dealing with the ways in which we end up in places. Like, how people will be like, I totally like I left work, drove home, and I don't remember the ride. That's kind of what can happen to Mars and Mercury when it's not looking, in this kind of energy of fabricated enemy. It's very much an influence of truth versus lie, which really isn't that black and white. Neither is fact or fiction. The amount of people that spout sensationalized, personalized rhetoric that they've regurgitated from before, um, and call it fact is in fact a creative fiction. And conversely, there's lots of fantastic nonfiction that can be uh, classified as creative nonfiction because it is very much about this person's experience, this scientist's experience with the work, or personal observations of it. That still very much gives factual information, but also qualifies it uh, with experience. So you have quantity and quality within the same, rather than one versus the other, which is often the case. And I've talked about this before, but similarly to the way people believe that in relationships, you can like only have comfort and security or only have spontaneity and whatever else comes with it, usually passion. When in fact, both need to be present in a relationship. The people that you are most safe and comfortable with are often the people that you are most willing to explore with. Um, and that goes for any and all relationships. That's how you trust the people closest to you. That's how you find truth in your relationships. And then again, we have this major concept of trust and this sort of umbrella conversation, and underneath it, the concepts of truth and lies, and where that aligns on our integrity and the ways in which we move. Because Mars and Venus, I know people are like, Western astrology. What is it? What's your sun, moon, rising? Gosh, my impersonation of people that's funny. But instead of asking what's your sun, moon, rising, I find that to be very silly. That's like asking what's your ego, and I can tell that just by talking to you. Um, Asking your Venus and Mars tells you much more about what your heart wants and how you'll get it, rather than Sun, Moon, and Venus is really much more about your ego and your um egoic growth. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing, but that's to say you're going the direction that you're going toward has less to do with your heart and more to do with your head. Conversely, Vedic astrology overlays with this, in which case your Venus is usually your rising in Vedic astrology because it directs you toward the heart. Other modes of astrology, other modalities of astrology, indigenous astrology, I haven't learned too much about Ethiopian, but it seems like Egyptian as well as Telegi or Toltec, directs you toward the soul. Um, so take that with what you want and do with it what you will. But I like to overlay all of them, especially Tselegi astrology. So Virgo would also be like rabbit, um, among some others, because geometrically there are um, influences that span across those two. But that's also something else I'm working on. Maybe we'll save that for another video before I digress. Anyway, fact fiction, creative nonfiction, um, investigative experience of reality, which is very much so like small pieces, small sensory information, and collaboration of information. Whereas a lot of people spouting facts will negate information as well as fiction. Like they're negating something entirely rather than addressing it, or maybe not synthesizing it, but like even attempting to debunk it rationally. Um, Gosh, we're getting very specific. Okay, big picture. Um, all of this, the new moon and the sun also oppose the first house, which, again, if we're, siphoning off passion and fabricating enemies and purposes, it directly affects your first house because you'll look in the mirror and be like, I don't recognize this person anymore. Or you'll look in the mirror and be like, this isn't the person that I wanted to be. Or hopefully, ideally, with all of this information, you look in the mirror and be like, you look more like me than I've ever felt before, which is a beautiful feeling. And when we don't feel that, we can connect, whether it be through meditation or whether it be through an active meditation in the ways in which we want to move. So it's not just, I'm going to cut my hair and shave my head. It is a meditative change, and active and intuitive, intuitive. I mean intuitive, but an active meditation, based off these intuitive feelings that becomes that direction. So in opposition of your first house, please do not let all of these vibrations completely shake you to your core of confidence. However, if it does, accept it with great excitement that it will only build you into uh, a more aligned version of yourself. If that makes sense. What's up? What's up? Thanks for being here. Oh, the first house is also with Saturn. So it's very much like big picture falling apart for its small pieces. It makes me think like building a Lego house. So Saturn, each lesson from Saturn is a new Lego, and we've built up these, walls or houses or temples, maybe even for some people, and you use these lessons as building blocks. Um, However, again, with the siphoning off of energy and directing this into a fabricated enemy or fabricated passion, maybe oppositional to your known and true and intimate internal passions and a sense of self, and understanding of what enemy is, that is not yourself and that is also not anybody else, because according to the according to the Bhagavad Gita, the best way to destroy your enemies is to destroy your animosity against them. And I know that's a big concept with everything that we've got going on in the world, but take it from somebody who has tried to project, not project, but who tried to not swap consciousnesses either, but really tried to get into consciousness of the enemy, um, as well as consciousness of freedom and future. Da, 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 da. We are building our truth, or we are building a weak bridge of lies. It depends on where you want to go, really, because the fabricated assimilation, the fabricated passion and enemy will be directed toward assimilation. And when you are on a bridge toward assimilation, it is a very weak bridge. And when it goes down, you are a casualty of it, as opposed to a bridge toward yourself, a bridge toward your own passion, a bridge toward your inner truth, a bridge toward uh, ample communication with your body and your mind. It is a stable bridge, it is a stable arch, and it has uh, true and real points. Um, Trust your experience with Saturn. Um, North Node is also in here, which is in Pisces. And the interesting thing about this is because of the sort of cuspiness of the new moon, this opposition is slightly unclear. But it's also not, because it's taking on both this Pisces and Aries energy, and influences this with both, which is very much fire and water, and very much the intensity of those two things moving together. Interestingly enough, both of these things in Selegi astrology or in Toltec astrology can be associated with wind and earth in a lot of ways, in which case, kind of what we expected from Virgo, we can apply to Pisces and Aries in the ways that they maturely utilize this energy rather than break down within or without. Um, think, I mean, and that's true of fire and water too, but it's not fire and water fighting each other. It's what happens when fire and water come together in equal temperament or in an in an authentic temperament that's not trying to cancel out the other. In which case, what do you get? You get like boiling water. You get steam. You get precipitation from tea. You get something much more calming, something much more cleansing, something much more fulfilling. Think cleansing with smoke. Think cleansing breaths. Think even the clearer the air feels after the fog. Smoke and air and precipitation is also what will lead into the clouds and then send itself back to the water. So in what ways are we creating an atmosphere, an aura of thought and of presence that also feeds back to the land, to the presence that we aspire to facilitate and to create on the land? And by land, I mean, yes, land, but also like in your body, also in your social circles, also in your workplace, also in your creative endeavors. A blank canvas or a blank sheet of paper is also the land in which you reside on in many ways, mentally and spiritually. Um, moving on. Um, oh, just looking at the chart. So it's a very high power system, but it meets interference. And it reminded me very much of this triangulation of points of a reticular activating system in your brain, in your psyche, and points of interference that the breath can have on it. In which case, you're directly interfacing with your autonomic nervous system that typically regulates like blinking your eyes and breathing and stuff because you don't always breathe consciously, right? Um, but because of that, you can change and impact memory, behavior, and symptomatic manifestations of a thing. And with the chart as it is, 100%, it seems like there's an energy that is directly trying to interface, because there is also blockage because we have Palestina in Aquarius, which is in the 12th house. So something that is typically very creative and very free-willed and free-spirited and very much a problem solver and very much an innovator is also sort of in a place of not detriment, but definitely challenge and definitely restriction and definitely even, I would say, um, maybe even exile because 12th house is your own undoing, but oftentimes it directly interfaces with the 11th house and with social circles. So like it reminds me of Frankenstein. Um, not in I mean and in many forms really like is Dr. Frankenstein the monster, or is Frankenstein's monster the monster, or is society's reaction the monster? And I think a major lesson of that movie in its original context is that mob mentality is, in fact, the monstrosity, um, which has a lot to do with faith, and that can also directly interface with uh, intentions of the doctor and whether or not that was monstrosity. But ultimately, the monster itself is not the monster. Um, and so, with that, Pallas Athena is also like OG or synthesized powers and passion. So I think it begs a very important question of are you the thought or are you the thinker? Do you allow your thoughts to become you? And that's not to say that instances in which that has occurred makes you any less than, but that is to say, take a moment to really recognize these things and understand that just like these powers are trying to directly interface with us in that and take advantage of blockages, you can assess these things because those blockages aren't permanent. They're only like road signs of like slow construction ahead or like detour ahead. so that you know how to deal. Because for general ideas of like blockages in creativity, I've lost my mind in creativity lately, because everything's been so intense. But that's also because I sit with these thoughts often, and I do not become them. I am not the thinker or the thought. The space in between. And ideally, I would like for you to find that as well, because it makes a lot of this so much easier. This whole life thing. um, let's see, let's see, let's see, let's see. Gosh, I love how I can't read my handwriting. Oh, just the last bit. Um, last bit. Um, if you are craving fluff but fearing pain, it makes for a very imbalanced human. And I know that that's probably a really intense thing to hear, because we are all very much fearing or dealing with something that is quite painful in this time, or an idea or a concept or a real actual thing that is quite painful. Um, but do we become the thought, or do we become the thinker? Do we allow that? Do we allow that to let us cower and hide, or do we allow that to inspire us to create new ideas, situations, ways around it? It's a hell of a time to be alive, I'll say that much. And we are surrounded by fluff, comfort, fluff. Enjoy comfort, but do not become it, for sake of it, because it will only make pain and discomfort that much more unbearable. Um, and philosophically, I also have my own definitions of pain. I think pain is a Western concept. I think colonization overlaid the idea of pain and fear, um, so as to trap us in it and make us afraid of the thing itself, rather than understanding pain as what it is, which is an experience to learn from. The pain of burning yourself on the stove is pain, but it should not equate fear. You're not afraid of the stove. You just learned that you probably shouldn't touch the stove when it's on, or what fire looks like. With that being said, I thank you for being here. I appreciate you and your presence. And we are going to pull some cards to see what this moon is drawing attention to. Now is not the time to ask for a reading, because I am reading for the collective. If you're interested in a personal reading or a one-on-one reading, 100% I do them. So please go to my website. You can check out various modes of, or like formats, I guess, of reading. And we can do general reading, which are by donation. We can do a general plus reading, which is not by donation, but does expand on it a little bit more. We can do a full body reading, which often shows me some pain, blockages, or emotional blockages, psychological blockages, and we can work on those specifically in that reading. Um, or we can do a one-on-one session, in which case I read full body energy, but I also will lead you in a meditation for it, so that we can again reconcile those energies, but in a directly interfaced way rather than outside in. And of course, I have free meditations on YouTube, as well as readings for the collective, as well as some yoga practices. I believe the last one is actually really perfect for this, because I made it with banishing the patriarchy in mind, but also on avidya and hate and aversion, and the five kleshas, and the four defects. Uh, there's only one up for now, but I am editing the rest of them, so the full cycle of that will be ready for you. soon. Oh, I love how I'm shuffling these. And these are the ones that I pull first. You read my shirt. I hope you like it. I wore it today. For just this purpose. Hookers Against Fascism worldwide. Ooh, okay. Love it. Love it. Living it. All right. Much like we are hanging out, much like you are with me, and much like there are cards in between us. If you would like to, you can join me in 3 deep breaths. You can choose to connect to the energies about us, or you can just choose to breathe, whatever floats your boat. I just ask that you are open and receiving of the knowledge of your breath. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. I hope it was as good for you as it was for me. 2 of diamonds. Oh, that's so funny, considering what I just said. 2 of hearts. Also even funnier, considering what I just said. Which is interesting because as we were breathing, as I was breathing with this in mind, it very much feels like collective energies are receding in communication, are withholding in communication, even, and that can go in so many ways. 100%. I know people are much more hesitant to be outspoken. I know a lot of people feel more disinterested in interacting on social media because of how heightened everything is, which is a form of, like reserving your opinions or reserving your speech, or sort of like not minding your tongue, but like silencing yourself in a way. Um, Not necessarily in a bad way. We don't need social media, but don't muzzle yourself either. That can also be the amount of information that is also withheld from us. More and more do I run into very necessary articles that are behind paywalls. I'm pretty sure it's called Remove Paywalls, but there's a website that you just put in that URL and it'll bypass that. So if it's like New York Times or what have you, welcome. Um, Secrets, obviously, and withholding information, obviously, that ties to government in a million and one ways. There wasn't any press coverage about the 250 legislators that actually were just in Israel for a whole fucking seminar. And uh, like all 50 states like planted a tree or something in Israel. Nobody's talking about that. And for as much as we may have legislators that are like placating us and I don't know, saying that they're on the people's side, obviously there's something else at play. Um, so that's very much a tenet of it too. Information that's being kept from us, as well as information that we are withholding or feel maybe like it wasn't even like direct. It felt more like afraid to speak, I guess, too, in a lot of ways, which is difficult. Which is very difficult, even with all of like the religious uprise for sure. Um, I definitely change. I definitely get lower when I'm in public, and I'm like, oh yeah, I read tarot because you never know. Somebody's gonna get weird about it. People already have. I've had people back away from me because they know that I do this, and it's hilarious. Um, Two of diamonds, two of hearts. I think it's very much the way we connect ideas and the way that we connect ideas to people. Um, this is very much the ways in which we idolize celebrities as well. We connect these ideas of goodness to this person, and therefore we lose sight of what good means because now it means this visual, and or this symbol. That's precisely what religion's done in a lot of ways too. Is they took away the meaning, they gave you a new symbol, and they told you that this is what you're supposed to connect, rather than giving you the full equation. Um, it's like A plus B equals C, but without one of those integers. So like all we get is that this equals this, um, and it doesn't add up. It doesn't actually add up, but it may be a mirage or a glamour in some ways that it does seem to add up. Or the ways in which, we want to be in love so bad that we attach the idea to this person. And the ways in which we think we'll never love again when that idea is no longer attached to this person. It is an idea that was applied to and shining on this person, but not directly attached to this person. In the same ways that we are also not our thoughts. So, like in a very literal way, that ties back to that too. Are you the thought or the thinker? The two of diamonds is maybe the thought or the thing. The two of hearts is the motivation for it. Like the ways in which you're like, oh, I never wanted to work for the family. And then you do, and you see your parents happy, and you're like, oh, maybe this is what I wanted. No, you're just sort of overlaying these things and taking out vital information so as to implicate that one thing equals the other. Um, oh gosh, there's so many examples of that. Um, but it's also fairly stagnant. Um, and also not like the friction between these points one and two, or these two parties two and two, go back and forth really heavy, but they do not grow beyond that. It does not grow past that point. It sort of always bounces back and forth or always exists within the two. It's like a couple that always argues but never really solves it. So that the next argument also brings those things up. Um, or, the ways in which we climb the career ladder and you always do one thing and then you find out that there's a million other problems. Or, you thought this was you wanted and then you found out that there's a million other aspects of it that you hate. That is okay. We don't have to cower and accept. We can we can always transmute. It is the power of the humanity in us and of the magic in us just as well. The eight of diamonds that proceeds this. Uh, it's been showing up for me a lot too. Which begs patience. It is that seeds are planted. It is that they are growing. It is that we have to have patience and faith that they will sprout. Like you plant a seed. If you just sit there and watch it, and you're like, "Come on, grow, 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 grow," uh, you can stress it out. Plants can hear and see. They'll know it's being watched. Um, but conversely, like an opportunity to trust yourself. Did you that it was a good seed? Do you know that you have good soil? Did you plant it in a good mood? Have you been watering it? You can trust those things. Again, that in the vital information in between, you can trust those things to see the result. Um, this is also why there's an ephemeris, because people add an element of trust of, well, I planted under this moon, so surely it'll be by blah 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 blah. Um, and so it's a trusting in the cycle, because eight is also that. It's a reflection, it's a replication, it's a cycle. Slightly unlike itself, because eight is also funny shape, but patterning. And are we patterning from the way that we think, or are we patterning from the thought itself? Are we patterning from what we believe, or are we patterning from what we've been shown? Because what we've been shown is a lot of smoke and mirrors. And the patterns that will replicate from that will lead you in circles, my friend. Um, unless we can clear the smoke, which is again that Pisces Aries oppositional, and either so heated we burnt the pot of water and there's smoke filling the apartment and the fire alarms going off, or um, the dampness of summer air, like the dewiness that feeds the fungi around it, and therefore thought expands well beyond itself and well past things even unlike itself, and in a intimately beneficial way. How fun! How fun! Bottom of the deck is the Nine of Hearts, which nine is a mastery number that makes me think again, just like I said, in a very passionate and intimate and uh, exceeding and exceptional way. Hearts, 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 hearts. I feel like it's just enough. It's enough to share. It's a full room with space to breathe. It's a glass full enough to where enough to where you can walk with it, to where it's not going to spill. It's also leading to a new cycle. I feel like there's a celebration because the 10 is coming. It's a celebration of success and also of growth. And I want you to feel that too, because I know that it's just corporations that are really like on it. Even the color of this is this like putrefied yellow. Um, God, and it's like kind of making me feel like shit. Um, in the context of that, the 10 is also not there. The 10 is also that one. That one is you. That one is the strength of not assimilating. That one is also surprise. That one can be anything given Saturn. Um, it does not have to be a besting over you. It can be that one that leads to a new cycle. In which case, like as much as it makes me sort of feel this like pompous dude in a desk in an office with other people, like, oh, ha, ha, the deal's almost closed. No, it's not because we're not closing. Uh, and what an expectant or anticipated state, especially when we're understanding, especially with these twos, reciprocity rather than transaction, reciprocity rather than transaction, transaction being entitlement and anticipation, expectation, entitlement and expectation. Um, Entitlement and expectation is transactional. Reciprocity does not have entitlement or expectation. It just is. Um, and that kind of goes back to the ways in which we do to grow. What did I say about like job or climbing ladders or what have you? Um, Sometimes we find we've done things that we didn't anticipate we would do. Sometimes we find we've done things that we did not think we would align to. This is also uh, a breaking of that mirror so that we have an opportunity to see in the sliver of the glass a way out of those cycles should we intend for it. Um, Even this is a break in the sliver of a glass so that you can consider what is your fabricated enemy and what is your fabricated passion, or what is your real passion, and what is your real opposition, and how is it that you do defeat your enemies. Because you can do it with thought, but not if you become it. And oftentimes that's exactly what makes someone our enemy, is an attempt to defeat us via thought in such a way that it is designed for us to become it. To become the not enough, to become the boss bitch, to become the whatever it is, to become the man's man, to become the girl's girl. Where is it that society is leading you, and how does that affect your innermost compass? These twos can also be very polarized, but in that context, it would require definitions of key terms, definitions of realities, even. Like, this isn't just key terms as in words, although yes, but key terms as in sensory input, sensory experience, context, etc. And so now we pull time, we pull space. Small steps, repetitive steps, not big actions, not big grand gestures. Although I do think there will be those. A lot of surprising gestures, perhaps, but steadiness will get us farther. I think, especially in times of unrest, steadiness, not stillness as in restraint, and not a grand eight gesture as in something like a big change, a move, or what have you. But steadiness of thought creates steadiness of will, creates a perfect shot, or a steady bow. I also have to say, with this Nine of Hearts, don't be blind to a detour. I talked about blind spots before, so maybe go back and watch that reading because it very much still applies. I want to say it was like a moon or two ago, but it'll definitely say in the bio bit, in the more part. But this Nine of Hearts that was so pompous when I first read it is also not aware of the blind spots and not very good at pivoting and plan. And so the more that we can also be that and be like, this is my general goal. This is plan A, plan B, plan C. This is plan A, point two. If A falls through, this is plan B continued. If A and B falls through, this is plan C, Z, in case we've got to start from the other side. All right, much like we are hanging out, much like there are cards in between us, if you did not take those 3 breaths with me before, now is your chance to take 3 breaths with me more. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Much calmer, much cooler, and less constriction or like energy pulled back toward me or withholding. A steadiness in the hands and a very clear point here. I love how I knock that and it feels really nice. So wake up your psyche, wake up your inner world. That's not to say open your third eye, because too many of y'all have opened your third eye without grounding first, and that's why we have all these weirdos that are not being cool and not being responsible with their energy or their power. Too many people have not activated the polarity of their energy or understand it. Too many people are seeking power, though they may not necessarily see it that way. And so they open their third eye and they do none of the grounding in their body, or they do all the ayahuasca ceremonies, or they do all the mushrooms, and they do all the microdosing, and they do none of the grounding work, or none of the digestive work, or none of the internalizing work. It's like going to space on acid, but not coming back with anything to tell. Even space missions, they come back and they write about it. They come back and there's something to study, there's something to grow from. That's the point of psychedelic or vision quest, or internal journey. And too many of us have just done it for fun or escapism. So that is not to say open your third eye. That is to say get very in tune with your internal body, and you'd be surprised how much that you don't need to seek something outside of yourself to be able to venture and journey deep within the wells of you and far beyond. Um, da, 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 da. Oh, yes, yes, yes. 10 of Pentacles. We knew it was near, didn't we? This 9 of Hearts, which I love this because the 9 of Hearts and the vision that I was getting at first was somebody anticipating the 10 of Pentacles as if it was already theirs. But there is a disunite because there is a piece of it that's obviously not already theirs. But the 10 of Pentacles is very much a sign that, again, that one is ours, that we are the fullness and the end of the string. It's also like light at the end of the wick. It's also a reminder of light at the end of the tunnel, but a reminder of resource, a reminder of synthesized truth, like being able to take all of this information and weave it together, being able to unite, being able to bring people together, being able to uh, create a stronger table through these reinforcements, or a stronger bond through these reinforcements, all better defined with, which is very interesting because that is not something that just we are aware of, and that is something that government uses in legal binding. So keep your wits about you. Following that is the Three of Swords, which I love. And I know that that is not everybody's favorite card. However, rather than it be just about heartbreak, rather than it be just about the things in which we've, hurt for, cried for, bled for, it is very much about our integrity. It is very much what you're willing to bleed for, what you're willing to fight for, what you're willing to die for, what you're willing to honor with your own blood rather than the sacrifice of another. And that is something that I talk about often, but keeps coming up. Um, it is about your own internal sacrifice, not the sacrificing of other. Um, what did I say about 10 of Pentacles building stability? It's also about this three hilt. It's not just the blade. The blade, in fact, is double sided. it is about the hilt that holds these things together, or that holds these things strong or true, or that gives us the space that we need to be able to follow through. That is a major tenet of the Three of Swords, not just sad, sad, woe me, heartbroken. If you look above the heart too, it's like hanging in trees or like protected by trees, um, and sort of growing into them, sort of interwoven, innervated. And that's very much, again, are you the thought or the thinker? What ways in which has your heartbreak innervated your system, or vice versa? How is it that your body's tree of knowledge, this ancestral knowledge that is in you or around you, or both, and both, how does that innervate and inform and influence? This is very much like chronic pain and trauma too. The ways in which the heart has consistently innervated this memory to everything else. And a thought of a parent, brings you into emotional shutdown, or a thought of something else negative that has happened to you, sort of allows you to relive those experiences all over again. When that is, it's very like neurologically how that works, but it again is not necessarily the end all be all of it. It is not necessarily the only truth of it. And if we, much like I said earlier, fire and water feed the clouds, feed the earth, feeds the root systems, and then those root systems are able to innervate, and the trees will communicate, and they will speak to the heart, and they will hold the heart. It is also the ways in which we weave into nature. Are we weaving into and sort of threading ourselves into a tapestry that we do or don't believe in? Too often are we ingratiated in systems that we do not agree with, and yet we continue to honor them in some way, shape, or form. And that is because Western civilization don't know shit about honor or love, really, which is why I'm here. Um, Three of Wands and Three of Pentacles, bottom of the deck. I love this, because the Three of Wands is a very creative and actionable card, ready to share, ready to thwart plan, has a plan, will take action, will you come with me kind of situation. Three of Pentacles, also very much a creative card, has like a chisel and hammer, and then these three pentacles that they've carved into with these intricate tree routings and designs as well. I don't know, I guess, if the character did that. Oh, and come to think of it, this is very much like, I don't know, like a stable chair, or like a stable structure. Very grounded clothing, very illuminated, very much in touch. Even, oh gosh, even this like a top shirt. I don't know. Um, and this like bright green, not these money greens, but this very much like inner light green, heart of hearts green. Because for as much as people think that your heart chakra is like pretty and pink, or that red is associated with hearts, um, your anahata chakra is associated with green. And so yes, you have your pink quartz, but your green aventurine is a lobe of the heart that sits underneath that as well. Because your heart chakra is also not just your heart chakra, but innervates to the shoulders and where we hold grief, and also has a Krit chakra underneath, in which case the energy siphons up and down, and then into throat chakra, and then down to guru chakra, and then around again. It's not just a up and down ladder hierarchical situation. It is very much a toroidal function. The chakras are also emanations from the chakram that are located in the spine. So now that we've dispelled those illusions and misnomers, um, this is very much like chitram chakra. This is the locality of the energy. This is what we do with the energy. And this is also very much like I have all of the resources I need to be able to do this thing. I have, the ingredients to be able to make this thing. I have the supplies and the knowledge and the whatever credentials, blah, 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 to be able to share this thing, share this reality, share this idea, share this creation. And ideally, this will be handed off. Somebody else takes the other end of the stick, and then you've got a plane of mutual agreement in creation. And then that is where we get these, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? These sort of structure bars that exist in community or in conversation or in capacity to create. Um, for the Three of Wands being a fire energy, fire is not our only creative energy, and wind or air or spades is not our only thought provoking energy, although that is their associations. Um, let your fire inspire you. Do not lead with fire. You can't. It's like carrying around a lantern or like incense. You're not carrying around the bonfire. You're not carrying around the hearth fire. You're carrying around an illumination of it or a spawn of it. And that's not to say that like nobody can see the inner fire. That is to say, when we lead with inner fire, we're leading in a very destructive way usually, because that tends to get away from us very quickly. And that is, again, maybe not always the case, but very much the case, because so many people have opened their third eye without grounding into their body, and so their energy is very detached. There's also why I don't like a lot of like large festival psychedelic gatherings, because it's like I'm just surrounded by shells with spirits hanging over them, and it's very weird. um and then everybody's back in their body, and it's like, you have no idea, do you? um it's very funny. But don't be that guy. Get very in body, and then allow that to expand, so that the depths within you expand, as well as the possibilities beyond you. Um, and don't negatively associate a depths within you with a bad thing. The depths within you are also an eternal reality in which versions of you infinitely exist, and where your emotions uh, have their manifestations and their multiplicants of that passion and drive. And that can be a really beautiful thing, if you are in full awareness of it. This is where creativity transpires, but this is also where anxiety transpires, if we are not present. Um, if we are not present. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, with that information. However, before I let you all go, we will do a little bit of a breath practice so that we can bring a little bit of presence back to our bodies. And so we can maybe more viscerally understand this idea of being the fire but not leading with it, or of understanding what that intimate fire means in a world that feels like it's trying to douse it or feels like it's trying to burn it out. In which case, rather than being part of the problem, with the general zeitgeist of like in with the good and out with the bad, and in with the good and out with the bad, is very much like leaving your trash behind. Um, it's like snacking and just leaving your garbage behind you for other people to pick up, and the earth don't need that no more. So what we will instead do is mindfully, and and patiently, with an inhale, you'll take in the bad. And with an exhale, you'll release the kind of love that you want to be in the world. And that is because you are. And I know that sounds crazy, but bear with me. You know where your heart is. What is that? Left side? Yeah. Left side of your chest. You know where your heart is. But you also know where your heart chakra is, which is in your spine, but emanates through here. So we've got like soft spot cavities uh, uh, under here. There we go. That's solar plexus. So your heart's up here. Um, find a soft spot, find a tender spot, and just sort of like massage into yourself, which is also very Tai Chi. Good for shaking things out, my friend. When you find the tenderness in your chest, close your eyes and just try and locate where you feel your heart. I suppose you don't have to just close your eyes if you can't, or if you do not trust me, but I invite you to, as it opens up the doors to an expansive inner universe. Become aware of where you find your heart in your body, not just anatomically, but where you feel that energy. The more that I'm bringing awareness to it, for instance, I feel the space behind my heart, uh, like the spaces in my ribs almost, because your heart also has lobes, and I think we think very two-dimensionally about these planes of our body. Yeah, find your heart in your chest, and again, even as I'm bringing awareness to it, I can feel it sort of in my armpits, and also at the very like tips, the very very tips of my shoulders, which is very funny. And see, the more you do it, the more you like don't necessarily need to close your eyes for it to be very visceral. Um, Become aware of your heart and recognize the ways in which that it is so present and so alive for you. And that strength in living does not subside when you're not paying attention to it. In fact, it grows much stronger. In fact, that's exactly maybe why anxiety can catch us off guard so much, because we're not paying attention to it. And so the heart must get louder so that we hear. But we're listening now. We recognize the heart and where it is. We recognize the heat, even that rises as we draw awareness to it and the blood that it is pumping. Perhaps it's excited that we finally begun to initiate conversation with it. Exactly, throughout your whole body. That, my friend, is what love feels like. And inhale through your nose, recognizing that feeling, holding your breath in your chest, allowing it to be warmed by the thoughtfulness of our heart. And exhale into the space around you. Exhale into the space around you with that love and with that warmth. Inhale through your nose, taking in hate, frustration, doubt, coldness of the world, and warming it in the center of your chest with the power of your heart. And exhale, releasing pure and saturated love into the earth. Inhale through your nose, allowing the breath to pass through the throat and into the chamber of the heart, warmed and electrified, tenderized even. And exhale that pure passion. Inhale through your nose, holding the breath in the heart. And exhale, releasing only pure love and pure passion. Inhale through the nose, taking in disagreements and frustrations and angers and rage. Hold it in your heart like light, like heat to a wounded animal. And exhale, like releasing in good health. Inhale through your nose, allowing your mind to take in the darkness and the worst of the world, holding it in, the strength in your heart, like a wounded stray animal needing care. allowing the heartbeat to pump blood into these negative thoughts and feelings, and releasing that breath through your mouth into the air and ether and pure love. Inhale through your nose, taking in darkness and evil and anger, holding it in your heart, heavier and tense, but feeling it release and soften as your heart pumps blood of love into it. And you exhale with gentility and understanding. Inhale through your nose, allowing your mind not to fear the worst, holding it in your heart, knowing that it is safe and will be transmuted into love. And you exhale the love that you are. Inhale through your nose, taking in chaos, holding it in your heart, the most divine chaos, and transmuting it into the order of love. Inhale through your nose, taking in stress and tension and doubt, holding it in your chest, in the heart of knowing, and exhaling that deep knowing and that deep sense of self into the world. Inhale your worst through the nose into the heart. Hold it in your heart, allowing the heartbeat to pump blood into the thought or thing. Transmute it and exhale only your best. Allow your breath to continue in those cycles at whatever pace is comfortable for you. Acknowledging the darkness is not something to fear, but something that you can transmute. Allowing these cycles to show you that what you think is evil or enemy in the world is really just a step away from your capacity of change. And that nothing, how oppositional, no matter how oppositional, can detour or sway you from your truest self. And your truest self honors the universe and honors the land, honors love as a growing thing. May your breath continue to be a vehicle toward yourself. And may it be the greatest reward of this lifetime and lead you only to reflections of that splendor. I thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you very much for being here. And with that, and that practice, and the heat that I myself have felt, I will leave you there until we meet again on a dark way. Be well, my friends.